My mom called me and said, "I can't believe you inspired Kingston to do this. You're such a black sheep."
Hi, Morgan.
Hey.
Let's go back in time. So there was a time that you were working in finance, and you were kind of the king of your game.
I was doing well.
From what I've heard, you were very successful. Do you want to take me back to a day in the life? What life was like then?
I'd wake up every day and put on a really expensive suit and go and talk to people about how money was important. And I thought it was interesting when we first worked there because they kind of trained us to care about people. And so they used to help me believe that there was nothing important in life that didn't involve money because it was related to everything we value. And my job was to help people buy dollars for dimes, essentially. And I worked a lot of hours. They told me if I worked really hard one day, I wouldn't have to work that hard, and that my job would be to take care of people in a way that my family wasn't taken care of at that point. You know, they didn't have many financial resources. So I kind of put my heart into it and won a number of awards and became one of the top selling insurance salesmen in Eastern Ontario for living benefits and life. And I was running a business.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, from the outside.
Yeah.
But what was a day in the life actually like?
I think I had a chip on my shoulder when I was, that was kind of my motivator, trying to prove myself. A lot of stress. I was always worried about being seen as an imposter. It was a lot of time in, and I felt like I was kind of forced to build an identity. And the more I wore a suit and drove in a nice car, they told me that people to sell money have to look like money. And the harder I tried, the more I felt like I didn't fit, even though I did. I felt like it looked like I fit. I was told with awards and my income and the success of doing the hard work that everything was on the right track. But I really struggled because I fit their box, but I just couldn't stay in the box. There was pieces of me that I'd try to show that were me, and every time I stood outside of it, I would get in trouble or lectured or told that I needed to be different.
So you were showing up with their rules in their box, and then when you tried to show up with your rules...
Yeah, just to be able to put a little spice on it, like, wear colored shoelaces, or I'd have a nice suit on, but have Superman socks with capes on them. And so I tried to inject my personality into it, and it just made me feel like I wasn't enough the more I tried, and it was either become less. I had a man, I perform magic on the side sometimes for fun, and I gave it up for a while because someone said it's time to put childish things away. You lie to people with that, and it just completely started to take away from me seeing that I was of value for what I wanted for my life and who I thought I should be. But you have golden handcuffs. You're doing well. How can you leave?
Money was good.
Yeah,
Lifestyle was good.
Yeah, lifestyle was good. You get to a point where you stop looking at the right side of the menu because you're, financially successful, and that was not a position for me. I was because, as I grew up, it was poverty and struggle, and I used to always joke, probably too much. I had to save up to be broke with my family, and so for me to be in a position finally where I thought there was stability and no debt and stuff like that, and I thought I'm helping people. This is what I asked for, and it was still empty.
Is that why you went into finance in the first place?
Yeah, on Christmas, my mom believed that the more that was under the tree, the longer it took, the more successful the Christmas was. But my father would see how much debt was being racked up and just scream at her, and Christmas had a lot of traumatic memories. I just felt like if my parents had more financial insight, that maybe that wouldn't happen. I could help other families do that. So it was really a heart-driven business. You can make money a lot of places, but you can't make a life. And I just thought money is an important thing and subject that and everyone thinks it's beneath them until they can't pay their bills. And so I didn't work with a lot of rich people. I worked with good people, and I picked the clients. Some of them were managers at a Tim Hortons, and other ones were running big businesses. I just cared about who they were, and that allowed me to serve. But I worked extra hours because of that. And so it was tough because I was, and I think the hard part was I was trying to make it what I thought it could be because I thought I was self-employed, because that's what they sell you is. It's like, you're kind of a captive agent. But I realized it was just really me trying to expand the box. And then, of course, I get in trouble, be mad at them or be mad at myself that it's not working. And my wife made it really clear. She said, Morgan, like, why do you, even though you're successful, why do you think you're struggling? I said, I don't know. She said, well, what are most people like in your industry? I said, boring, accountant type personalities for the most part. There's some other people there, not everybody, but. And she said, yeah, why do you think they're like that? I was like, I don't know. She said, well, what do you like? I'm like, I don't know. I kind of think I have a personality. She said, people want their money to be boring. They don't want it to have a personality. So it's kind of an uphill climb. And I think I tried to force it at first to be what it wasn't, believing that like I was different in a good way. And that got challenged really early on to be like, yeah, on paper I'm successful, but I'm, stepping on a lot of toes. And
you were winning awards.
Yeah. Like even up to my last year, I won 2 awards for business development and growth and the things I was doing. So you're like all this stuff on paper is like, yeah, Morgan's doing well, but I was suffering.
What did that suffering present as? How did that show up?
I started like trying to do stuff on the outside that I thought were more aligned with like charity work and stuff. And I did the toilet paper charity where we raised, a ton of toilet paper. And
TP the Town.
Yeah, TP the Town, where across Canada we raised like 1 million rolls of toilet paper in 5 years. And that was the first time I realized that like I could basically build whatever I believe, but there was still this part of me that was like, why would I leave a job? I made promises to these clients. So I suffered. I spent about 3 to 6 months in my basement just not trying at all. I just went from a very productive person to the most unproductive, depressed human, just playing video games and trying not to swallow bottle pills or take my own life. And it was
It's a
heavy.
tough place.
Yeah, hell yeah. And trying to figure out like what, I knew there was something inside of me I wanted more, that I wanted to be able to share my full gift, but you're also caught up in, I got a baby on the way at that point in time. I had a life of nothing and I created, and I'm like, what am I, crazy? Like I'm about to leave something that most people would fight for, and I did. I built it a number of times to create this, supportive financial, but I just wasn't fitting in, nor did I feel comfortable in only using certain skills and not being able to be who I really was. And so I had to square off with that.
So whose life were you living?
I don't know, a wounded kid, but also, the life that they tell you that you should be in that role. Like this is what you need to be to represent what we are. And you can't force that forever, because you can pretend for a while and you can feel it. And then all of a sudden a part of you slips out that's authentic. And then you think, I'm not doing it right. And so I was living a life of a scared kid that was just trying to please the people. Not having family support, both emotionally and financially, you're trying to figure out who you can trust. And a lot of people will tell you what they see, and you start to think maybe they know more than me. They have experience. They've been here long. And maybe I'm not doing it right. I could be doing it better. And the pressure I put on myself was immense.
So you spent 6 months in your basement playing video games.
Yeah.
Disassociating, just trying to cope with living the success that you always wanted and never felt right.
Right, like now I'm about to, what am I going to do? Like flush this? And so I had the doubts, like, what will people think? What if I try something and I fail at it? What did I say? Do I look greedy? Is this a midlife crisis? Like I'm almost 40. Like, is this what it looks like? And then I just remember one time in the basement kind of having this ping of like suffering, and then just realizing like this moment of clarity that I'm like, I could literally go back to work. Like, what am I complaining about? I could literally go back to work and just sell insurance and do my thing. I'm successful. Why am I hurting? And I realized the difference between the story in my head, and then there was a part of me that wanted something. And I realized with some insight in time that part of me was the real me advocating for me. And the suffering was kind of like my soul like crying for the fact that my mind was winning a battle on me thinking I'm not enough, or that I couldn't take a risk and do something more for myself and what was really true to my purpose. And so in that moment, I kind of realized it was time to make a shift, and that I had to shut her down, because it was like I couldn't stay there anymore. It was kind of now or never. Yeah. I had to either leave. Now I kind of sputtered because it's like, because the whole program was like, okay, maybe it's this company. They're just not understanding me. What if I went to a different company?
Right. What if I do the exact same thing just
somewhere else? Yeah.
Right.
And then I was really open in interviews, like, this is what I think I want to do. I want to help people with their well-being and happiness. I want to create this. It's kind of a side project. It's not about income. It's about helping people. And they went, yeah, you can do that here. And they went, whoa, whoa, whoa. What about our brand? What about, I was like, okay. Yeah. So then I left there and then thought I was out of finance, and then another company said, you can do that here. And here's why. And then that was kind of a Bill Goods too. They're all good companies.
How did that feel being wanted for the version of you didn't want?
It was challenging, especially when I was honest about it. Like I wasn't pretending at that point. I was like, here's where I'm going. It is hard when companies really want to bring in talent and they just want to, again, they just want you to be there, and they're desperate for someone who's going to help them and do it. And like, I don't fit here anymore. And then I just came to the terms, it's not, they're doing a good job and they're doing the best they can. My job was to kind of start to figure myself out and take the leap and build the escape strategy for myself.
So you had built up this business in finance from scratch, received accolades,
twice,
got the awards and the high fives, and you were in demand.
Yep.
And still misaligned, thinking, I have to build something different. I need to run to a higher calling. How do you know that the next thing's not going to be the wrong thing?
That is totally a thought that crossed my mind. It is something that I contemplated with. I'm like, what if this is just a thing? But there were signs along the way. Like, I noticed that when I was talking about money, you will talk about everything. People talk about family and concerns and futures and jobs and stuff. And people were coming to me for advice outside of that all the time. Matter of fact, I started doing like a thing where I decided to set a goal, because I never had anything sentimental and monetary of any value. Everything I had is sentimental, is like movie tickets or something worthless. And so I decided to do like a toonie drive for people that were outside of my job as a financial advisor. And I wanted to buy something that was of value. And it was kind of a discussion between sentimental and monetary, but I don't like arguing from not knowing. So I'm like, I'm going to try to create this. Maybe I'll just ask my friends for money. No, that's panhandling. I have to earn it. And so I started telling people that I'd be doing $2 favors. So I've done resumes for people would give me more, sometimes 10 or 20 bucks, whatever. And I realized in 18 months, I'd saved up $10,000. And that's when I bought my first Rolex. And so it was like people were like, I was like, are you buying that to look successful? I'm like, no, most people don't even notice you're wearing it, not wearing it today. I just wanted to remind myself that you can create. And then I realized, as I gave it to my son, that what I was telling him is to be successful is not about chasing money, it's about service. And when I realized, wow, people paid a couple bucks, what if I did this intentionally?
It was your litmus test.
Yeah, it was like, and I taught an exercise when I worked in career counseling about transferable happiness. And I used that, and I looked at, use your own tools, not just for your clients, for yourself. And I went through and I looked at all the moments of my life, and I'm like, will I experience this emotion if I did this? And took a hard look at it and be like, will you? Because most people leave their jobs because they're not happy. I wasn't happy. So when I looked at my current job, out of a list of 13, I usually get them to do 10. I was like, we look for 80%, and I was sitting on like 6. I'm like, okay, no wonder. What if I did this? Would I experience that? Would I experience that? One of the things was illusion is I thought I controlled my destiny, and I didn't. I wasn't an owner.
So we're back in your basement.
Yeah.
You're feeling it or not feeling it, and there's something more. You've done a side hustle of $2 favors.
Yeah. Stupid.
And it wasn't stupid.
It's so silly though.
But you discovered that there's an opportunity to help people in the way that you want. That you've been limited. Shackled.
Yes.
And not able to do it.
Yes.
And you come up with this idea of...
After the toilet paper charity, my mom called me and said, I can't believe you inspired Kingston to do this. You're such a black sheep. And I already felt like I didn't fit in a lot of places and stung. And I said, Mom, that's like the outcast. And she said, no, Morgan, black sheep have a wool, so they're never used for their meat, live long and luxurious lives. Your mind is your wool. And so that kind of sparked this idea, like a lot of people feel different and alone and lost in their journey. And I thought, maybe there's something to this, that I could start to look for, like, how people understand that they're black sheeps, and a lot of people, have come out and been like, oh, I don't fit in, and they're all the right ways. They think differently, they understand. It's a modern day black sheep, it's a modern day rebel, not the old school version of it. And so that inspired me to start building something, and I pretty much didn't know what I was building except for a logo and an opportunity. And then I was still, like I said, I was really stuck, because I thought, a lot of people thought it was, a lot of people around me were like, oh, you have the golden handcuffs, leaving this job is the worst idea. You'll never find a job as good as this. And they fed into that.
Well,
self-doubt.
you had safety.
Yeah.
You had safety that many people chase.
Right.
So was discomfort and misalignment enough for you to jump from that safety alone?
Early on, I think that it would, if I just did it the way I was and before I left, it would have been like a chip on my shoulder, kind of, I'll show you. But what happened over time is there was like signs and proof of like, oh, like here's this successful thing here that taught me something, and here's people pop in your life in the weirdest ways. And I started seeking, other outside, and I didn't really even seek them. They kind of found me in the weirdest situations, supports and conversations that aligned. And I realized there was an opportunity to do this and well. And it wasn't until I was kind of stumbling through it early on as I left, until a friend of mine had a near-death experience, and he was an old friend from high school. He was also building his career, and he called and he shared an experience that shifted me into an understanding that I realized right away, if I study with him, that this would be the thing that would help other people lighten their load. And it just, everything came in at the right time, kind of thing. And so I mean it, like, the discomfort was enough for me, because I knew if I stayed that I was already heading down the path of depression and suicidal ideation and all that stuff. I was planning it. And so I knew that it was better to move than to stay. And I had to take a chance on me, and knowing that I could like have more control and influence the things that, if someone once said to me in this whole situation, it's like, if you're going to have a gun held to your head, you might as well be the one holding the trigger. And I think that was a big deal, to be like, I'd rather, and I heard Jim Carrey say, rather fail at what I love than succeed at what I hate. And I just realized like my time there was done and served, and I couldn't, like, no matter how hard I tried to fit, even though there was a lot of accolades, I was being told that you're too different. And
You're a black sheep.
Yeah, I'm a black sheep. And I was like, man, I don't fit here. Like that makes sense. So, if you can't find it, you got to create it. And so I decided to look to serve people, and I'm so happy that I did, because, asking your boss to fire you for that reason is like, you got to let me go. We don't want to. You're going to have to, or you have to quit. Like, it's not what I'm meant to do. And I knew, people ask me all the time, do you think you'll be successful? I'm like, yeah, I do believe it, because I know that success is hard work and actually being passionate about what you do, and determination. Those things are major components to people that are entrepreneurs. And I had that. And they're like, well, how committed are you? I'm like, I will sell everything I care about within reason. And they're like, you won't fail that way. Like, when you're all in. And there was just no looking back. For the first time in my life, I think I had no backup plan.
So now you work with a roster of clients.
Yes.
You help coach and mentor them to learn from a different place to think.
Yes.
Or a different way to think. Or thinking from a different place.
Yeah, either way. Yeah.
I guess they also meant the same thing. Take us through a day of your life now. We know what it looked like back then.
Yeah, so I still wake up every day. I don't put on a monkey suit anymore, which is awesome. And I just contact people and see how they're doing, and actually check in on where they're at. And whatever's getting in the way of them being their fullest version of happy, I get to help tackle with my background. So that could be everything from people who are depressed or anxious, but also successful people that are experiencing maybe burnout, or their marriages are struggling, or they're not getting the satisfaction in their lives the way I wasn't. And so they always say you coach a former version of yourself in a way. And so that's where the vast experience of, the first 48 years of my life have caused me great wisdom to be able to share, not my experience, but understand where they're at and be able to speak a language to help them see the best version of themselves. And so it's my job's fun, man. I deal with something, different people, different ages. I know everyone thinks you should niche, but like, I think happiness today is a bit of a niche market with how many people are dealing with stuff. And so, in the last couple of weeks, I've dealt with struggling relationships. I've dealt with people who have had loss. I've dealt with people who are dealing with anxiety, and people who are trying to expand their business and are worried about if it will fail and the fear of failure. There's really, that's what makes it so exciting. And I actually get to take everything I do in my life and bring it to them and help them see both themselves and me, but also the best part of who they are, so they can have the life that they deserve. And so it's kind of like when I was in finance, I thought I was saving my family, but in a way it's kind of like I've saved myself, and that allows people to see that they can do it too. Not from motivation, but understanding that it's possible to live happy and untethered from this negative thing at times.
So when you were a career counselor, you had shackles and guardrails, strict guardrails, and how you could help somebody with a limited purview. In finance, you had shackles and guardrails, how you could help somebody with a limited purview. And now on your own, the shackles are off.
Yeah.
The guardrails are gone. You become the guardrail.
Yeah.
How do you balance that? It's a lot of responsibility.
Well, I had to learn it early on, like good coaching is not about who I am. Right? My experience, my wisdom offers people to see themselves, but I had to like really work to learn how to kill my own identity and to understand that like my job's not to save people. I think early on in my career, I thought the people pleasing side of me and the cape socks, like I said, when I went on, that was just a metaphor for trying to be a hero. I don't see myself anymore as like a guy trying to save the world. I just think it's a man that's trying to help people save their own world. And the only way that I can create a guard for them is to help them realize that they are their own guard too. And it's not my job to tell them what they're wrong or right. It's just my job to help them see the lights inside of them. And when they wake up to that, everything changes for them. So I don't really, the best part, the only guard part I don't have to do is I can bring in stuff like music and my own creativity and magic and stories. And I'm not limited by, some outside body that says you're not allowed to care about people. You're not allowed to love people outside of, you can only love people within these parameters. And so tell me when you need to limit your love and I'll tell you, why I suffered in my job. It's like, this is gigantic in people when they open up. And I don't think anything should limit that. And everyone can find it in their own way. And I just felt like I was suffering because this was compressed and now it's not. So why would I guard anything if I don't have to? This thing is wide open.
So if you could go back in time to Morgan in the basement and let him know what Morgan of today has for advice for him, what would you tell him?
Of course, there's part of me that says like nothing because everything worked out the way it was supposed to. But that's, a bit.
That's not the point of this exercise.
Yeah. So I'll take the question more seriously and say, you're enough. You have nothing to prove. Everything that happened was for you to learn and grow. And the future is going to be really fun. So, don't be attached to who you think you are. And stop wearing those horrible ties. Yeah.
You laugh, but I feel it.
Yeah, it was a tie really is a noose around your neck, and it was really, really hard. And I'm lucky to be here because, it is truly by the grace of the universe that I am still here. And, there's a lot of damage that happens along the way when you're angry and scared and alone and you don't feel enough and you just want the world to see you. And, not knowing the answer was I just had to see myself. I had to look within. And there's work that goes into that. You have to be strong enough to get your identity out of the way and grow and live. And I am so happy, and I have seriously, people think I'm crazy, but I'm like, life is so good. Even when it's not, my life's not easy. I have challenges like everyone else, but I don't get angry or judgment or all that stuff just faded away. And I spend most of my time, I'm a human, but I spend most of my time enjoying, even understanding hard things. And so I never foresaw that helping other people would make such a difference in my own personal growth. It's kind of cool because you get to talk about this stuff every day. And so I get to live it. And I really do. And it's just been over and over watching other people transform is just a testimony to that it's possible and what it was for me. And so I feel very fortunate and blessed that I get to show up in people's lives and be a light in sometimes a dark world. And I'm super humbled by it. And, that was another thing to overcome, to be like, why me? And then you get older and you're like, who else? It was just destined for me to show up. And I'm very appreciative of the people that allow me into their lives to love them the way that I learned to love myself and until they learn to love themselves the same way.
Well, we appreciate you too. Thanks, you. Man. Thank you for taking the time with me today.
Thanks for doing this. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Because if you can make work something that you love, it changes everything.